Hey, Trio? Trio, can you hear me? Type in the chat. Okay. Do you think anyone else is going to come? All right. So, um, yeah, you've seen the title, yeah. So, I hope that since there's so few people watching, it's just you. Um, Still, the message will be important. Oh, hey, Douglas. Hey, that's nice to see. All right. So today, it's time to open up for me because um, a lot of stuff has been happening in the past 2 years that completely changed my life in a way that is reversible. So um, I don't even know where to start because wait, someone just left. Wait a moment. Okay, the count is a bit weird, but so Yeah, it's hard to find the first word. It's always the hardest part. Um, but yeah. Okay. So so again, I will point at the title. This is about the whole world because when I'm 17 now, and just 2 years ago, there've been several events that to the real world, and it was about at the same time that I started interest in philosophy, and was also my family where there's been a lot of trouble. Oh, yeah, the stream is lagging. Yeah, happens. But anyways, um, woohoo. There's been trying to get this friend to this other one because I had been stuck without really having anything in real life around me. And ultimately, the terrible situation with my family, the fact that school has always been frustrating for me because it was simply too boring and too easy for me. And also the fact that I was uncovering the true nature of the world have led to me starting to get some very bad mental health. And recently, just about 1 month ago, I the situation in my family became so bad, not having come out of age, simply so I can maintain my sanity because it was really, really hard. And so ultimately, I have discovered a few things that I just need to tell you. So, have you listened so far? In case you don't know me, yeah, he wrote, yeah, yeah. I was just typing, so actually, I know exactly where to start. I realized um many things, but they can be summed up in one problematic thing about the world right now and the people in it, and it's the fact that we tend to be driven by fear. I mean, think about it. Why why do we go to work? Because we're afraid to not have enough money. Why do we go to school even when it's so frustrating? Because we're afraid to not do the right thing in other people's eyes. Or why are some people so extremely obedient to an insane degree towards their parents, like it used to be the case for me? Well, because we're afraid of their authority. And so what happens in a society that is based around fear is it comes at the cost of being able to be just human and just do things for the sake of it. And So that's what I observed. It's really really simple, and I let me actually tell you a bit more detailed what happened across my life, because it wasn't even just family. It doesn't even stop there. It was two. I had to move from one school to the next. Look, people were just jealous at me, and they tended to start bullying, and also just not treating me well, because it's also true that many people misunderstood me as a person. But it's no surprise if, because if I look around the world, even the adults, like even real old people who should have the experience, they many of them fail to just see the human in a person instead of expecting something from them. And this is exactly what my parents did. They expected from me many things. And it was also ultimately the reason that um, I pressured myself so hard, because I assumed that by forcing myself, I assumed that just forcing myself to do the X or Y would move me forward, which was taught that it was all about the discipline, the hard work, and it's n- it's only to a certain degree, because if we are not driven by passion, then then you can't get the results. No matter what you do, you just cannot get results. And yeah. So far, um, yeah. What about the last month? It's been the best month in my life, honestly, because despite all the issues I had, they have to process now. They have to get off of my mind now. I live on my own. For the first time in my life, I even have my own room. I mean, I didn't even have my own room back at home, or more accurately, my parents' house, because it's nothing more than that. So yeah, a lot has happened recently. Um, mm, yeah, live on my own. Yeah, that's awesome, Dakus. And regarding this, you say you can just play it off as a joke. Let me tell you, I did that. I did that. Um, and at first, the thing is, um, it doesn't go to the core, because ultimately, in order to deal with what happened, you really have to wonder, like, what was going on in these people's minds. And so, essentially, whenever life strikes you with these things, you have to remind yourself how people tick. And I spent a long time after that really informing myself. I got myself into a rabbit hole of both philosophy and psychology. So, and let me tell you, knowing the truth is important, but it's challenging. And for me, it just wasn't my mental health, because there there were all these stones thrown at me at once. So it was just too much at some points. And I was never supported. I I tried to contact a few people in my school who have been through similar things. It turned out they weren't helpful because all they did was trying to distance themselves from me because they couldn't even deal with their own problems. How are they going to deal with mine? I mean, that's understandable. Um, but the people who are supposed to support me, you know, the people who raise you, they just weren't there. All they did was blame me further for feeling bad, to have an excuse or something, because if they think that, that means that they think the same way, right? So I mean, really, a question. Um, it does mean that, right? Hmm. Yeah. Mm, yeah. Yeah. I see the comment. Um, yes, bullies are just insecure. Whenever I reflect, I see this, and then what I wondered was, what makes people behave so badly? And the answer was again fear. It was essentially whoever wants to push someone down to be above them seems to have like an inferiority complex, because you can't explain it any differently. And what I mean by that is no, no, not the kind of diagnosis, if it even exists. I mean more like, yes, bad parents, bad people, bad influence in general. Yes. But now you get into this chain of, um this child behaves bad. Why? Because of the parents. But why did the parents start to behave badly? Because of their parents. And so you start getting into this infinite chain. So it doesn't really answer the question, where does it come from? What is the root cause? And on the other hand, you actually see good people turning bad because of the pressure. So it must have started somewhere. And what I think, at least, is that it is because the structure of the world as we know it right now actually induces bad behavior. I mean, um, let's take an example. Say school. So I was someone who generally received good grades, and I was always on the top. And people seeing comparing themselves to me for whatever reason. I mean, what I would say is, compare yourself only to who you were the day before, and that's very more healthy. But um, these and they see the comparison as a justification for behaving poorly. These systems become a matter of survival, more survival and less of actually living, of actually tracing your own path. And I mean, whenever we are judged, it we are judged since we're so little. Yeah, yeah, I've seen that too. I've seen the group phenomenon. Like, one or two people started, and at some point, my whole class was going after me, and even the teachers, which was terrible. And um, an example actually of teachers doing this to me was in chemistry class. It was in fifth grade, which is when Germany we just start moving to a different school form to um, the to what we call the weiterführende Schule. And what happened there was we worked with fire at some point. I mean, in it's chemistry, and I had a fear of fire. You deal with it right now, or you or basically they would just laugh at me. Like my chemistry teacher literally laughed at me for having a fear of fire. And the reason I was afraid of fire was a past trauma. It that was again in first grade, and at that time, there are like these I don't know how you call them. Basically, it's like these kind of hot glue. Yeah, it's this kind of hot glue. And what happened there in primary school was, um, and it was different. They just left open on the table. I So when I came back, I didn't notice it, and I touched with the hand the hot glue. And yes, teachers should not be as low as the bad students. Let me tell you something, they were even lower. They were even lower, I can tell you. But to finish off the story, that's the reason that I became afraid of fire, because anything hot triggered this fear in me, and it was inevitable. It was a phobia I had developed, and was no understanding, like no understanding at all. And then there was, of course, um, an example that is really were very low. I I used to love swimming. I really loved swimming. And what happened one day was I was jumping from whatever you call it. It's this high um into into the water, and just ensure like a safety distance. And so I landed right on someone else. It was by accident. I was just I really tried to avoid it, but it was ultimately inevitable because there were just so many people there. And what happened the next day was, I mean, I apologized and everything, and the teacher seemingly was sorry. But then what happened the next day? Someone else would drown me, literally try to kill me with the water. And the teacher did nothing. And in fact, I even I even heard them encourage them, which was ever since then I can't even enter water. I can't even like drink water without this kind of phobia. Yes, yes. My life is ridiculous. There was then a time where they like someone like pressed on my neck again, trying to kill me because yeah, generally these students were just crazy. They were they were all bad. And the only reason for this was one, I had good grades, and two, because of my Asperger's diagnosis, which was itself a diagnosis which I remember was quite rushed. So, and it was rushed because the diagnosis was made in like what, a day when I was like 5. So not really in a time where you can really say anything about the development of a child, because it's inconclusive. I mean, just, I don't know. What happened was, yeah, I can't even drink water. And what I do is I drink everything else. I drink juice and milk, but like raw water, yeah. Yes, I consider that. And actually, I talked to my parents about it at the time, but they refused to do it because they had a general distrust in therapists. And yes, some therapists I remember were terrible towards me as well, but they were simply incompetent. The problem with my parents was they make too many generalizations. So they see a therapist once and they are incompetent, and they say they are all the same. Or even when they moved to Germany, which was before I was even born, because yeah, they moved out from Spain, and they saw these people for the first few weeks, and they were immediately starting to make themselves like a fixed image of what a German is like, which is obviously the wrong way to approach this. Is the wrong way to approach getting to know a new culture, because then what you're doing is you are pulling you're what you're doing is you're generalizing them, you are stigmatizing them. But this is exactly what they did. And they always do that. They always overgeneralize, and I never got the chance to actually talk to a therapist. And to this day, I still feel this force in me that pulls me back, saying, "No, don't go there, don't go there." And I'm trying to overcome it, and I'm making progress, but it will take a while. And so I'm in this very unfortunate situation where I know all these things that didn't go well with me, that I need to work on it, I need to talk to someone, get help. But at this time, the subconscious willingness to do that is apparently not high enough. And the reason for this is simply all the bad things that happened. I have developed like this general distrust in people, like in real life. I mean, online, I can chat and everything, but in real life, I feel like this distrust, this general distrust in people. And at some point, it even got to the point where my subconscious was always telling me that for whatever reason, someone was like chasing me. And I always like looked back, and there was no one, there was nothing. And as soon as I looked forward again, the feeling was back. And it continued like this. And sometimes I really walked like with my head leaned to the back, because I couldn't deal with this feeling at the time. And generally, I have all of this to blame to all these people who have failed me. And they didn't fail me because people were like evil by nature. I mean, no one is born like the people I'm describing. No one is born like that. So something happens. And what happens is we live in a society that has no idea how to make a good person. Right now, most people raise based on the idea that people were generally bad, and you had to like essentially treat them like a dog and basically like encourage them to behave well by setting expectations onto them. For instance, um, instead of saying the child will learn to behave well on their own, what people say instead is children are reckless and they need to be like tamed like a lion. But people don't work like that. I have seen that. I have seen many people. I've met many young people and their development over the years. My mic. Can you hear me better now? Okay. Can you hear me better now? Takus? Is the mic alright again? Yep, the cuts. I can't do anything about that. I don't know why. It's there. Um, anyways, mm, where was I? Yeah, people. Um, I observed young people and they don't start off behaving badly. I see the group dynamics and how they slowly mold the person. It's um maybe I need to talk louder. But yeah. What I want to say is uh people generally become bad. They don't start off like that. And you must somehow develop the faith in the other person actually actually becoming a good person. Because if you don't show trust towards the person, they will show distrust towards anyone, and that will cause bad behavior. Um, and wait, is there like a setting to my mic? Yeah. I think that uh, we are dealing with a system right now that it doesn't really work anymore. I mean, it's no wonder because ultimately a system justifies itself when it with its own inner logic, and this is ultimately why we are stagnating in the past years. I mean, just look at this. Just look at how people can behave and see that nothing changed. And the worst part is people think that they can compensate with technology. That is false. You cannot do that. What you really have to do is actually change your mindset, like referring to all people, and really this changing like generally your mindset. It's hard. Like no one said that being a responsible person, a good person, was easy. No one said that. I mean, it would be easy if we weren't treated the way we are. And I mean, when I look at work, the work ethic in general, it's terrible right now because it's the same thing. Force people essentially to work because, yeah, you need money to survive, and it's really unhealthy because there's this condition. Essentially, um, basically, the message it gives off is you are worthy of being alive if you work, and this doesn't work, and especially if you don't have a social system. I mean, I'm lucky I have a social system here. I mean, otherwise, I wouldn't be out of my situation. But in general, if especially if you don't have a social system, this is exactly what happens. And oh yeah, okay, I get it. And actually, can we? I still have a lot to talk about, so maybe per Discord is better because maybe the mic is better. Um. Oh, and by the way, thanks for listening. It's been it's been a rough time, especially recently, and so yeah. Okay. Stream ends.